Hello, and welcome to Plastic Fantastic. Join me on my journey as I make things up as I go along, and put together an animated story focusing on the mesh tool, and the basic skills needed to get to grips with OpenToonz. From speed sketch to animated scene, I will show you how easy it is to do. Let's get started. Okay, let's draw our first scene. Press B for the brush tool, and start drawing. Can you tell what it is yet? Yep. It's a window. We're using vectors here, because we're going to start with a zoom, and we want those lovely smooth lines. Now our window is here, let's close the gaps and color it in. Press C for the point tool, and tweak your drawing. For a new color, press the New Style button. Double-click the swatch to edit. Press F for the Fill tool. While filling, use a color you can see. You can always change it later. Press S for the Selection tool, to transform and arrange items. The right button menu will give you the options you need. For our zoomy beginning, we'll need a foreground and a background. Let's cut and paste the moon into a new layer. Draw a rectangle with the geometric tool, and fill with black for our night sky. Now, by dragging the columns, move this layer to the background. Add a white background to our window layer, to cover the sticky out bits. Make the outline transparent, by clicking color 0 while it's selected. I think we need a little hill in the foreground. Yes, let's do that. Lovely. Once we've finished making our layers, let's look at them in 3D. Press this little button in the middle, and we get this groovy view. Choose the Edit tool, and make sure your camera is selected. Add keyframes for the camera, by clicking in its properties and pressing Return. Move down some frames, and move the Z position of the camera closer to our scene. To do this, click and drag while holding Ctrl. Now we have a zoom. Undo this for now. Let's first move our background to the back. Select the background column, and enter a new Z value directly. The higher the number, the further away it is. We want to zoom to this view in the last frame. So select the camera again, and add positional keyframes. Return to our first frame, and holding Ctrl, click and drag, until you are totally zoomed in, with the moon in the middle. This bit can get fiddly. You may need to resize some things at this stage. Ta-da! Now we have a nice little zoom to kick off our animation. For our next scene, let's draw someone in bed. We're going to use the plastic tool to animate him. Here I import the drawing in 3 separate pieces. This way, it is easier to decide what moves and what doesn't. Select our sleeping friend, and click on the plastic tool. The first thing we need is a mesh. Here you'll see 3 options. The third one sets the margin of the mesh. As you can see, a larger number draws a fatter mesh around our lines. Let's see how this behaves. Click Apply to create the mesh. Make sure Build Skeleton is selected, and place the first point. This becomes the base of our skeleton, the rest branches off from there. Let's see what this does. Choose Animate from the drop menu, and add some frames in the timeline. First we want a keyframe for our mesh in frame 1. Do this by selecting and dragging on the base of the skeleton. Move down some frames, and let's make him snore. Notice how the large margins mean our bones affect most of the mesh, and the skeleton base acts as a pivot point. Now let's tween back to the first position. Select the first keyframe, and holding Shift, drag it down. Okay, he snores. Let's position the pillow now. Select the pillow column, and choose the Edit tool to move it around. We also have some little shadows, which we want to animate. Select the shadows layer, and give it a mesh. Use the same margins and click Apply. Still in plastic tool mode, select Build Skeleton from the menu, and start drawing your bones. You can build skeletons any way you want, as long as they have the desired effect. Change back to the Animate option, and place a starting keyframe. At frame 12, move the shadows apart slightly. Make them return to their first position by shift dragging the first keyframe as before. Now switch all layers back on, and with the Edit tool selected, position this layer correctly. Yep, he's asleep. Let's also add a quick drooling effect with a simple shape tween. Head over to the Geometry tool shortcut G. Select Eclipse, and draw a little puddle. Edit the shape with the point tool. Fill it and make the outline transparent. For the shape tween we need to add frames to this level, so right-click in the level window, and choose Add Frames. Now copy and paste our shape into the last frame. Tweak this shape by mucking around with the points on the line. When you're done, select the first frame, and then holding Shift, select the last frame, so that all frames are selected. To create a shape tween, click on the text that says In Between, and then again in the dialog window. Now let's enter these frame numbers into the timeline. Select and drag the column handle, to repeat the pattern you enter. Hey presto! Now click the arrow under the last keyframes in our mesh columns, to make these animations loop. Our tween is a bit fast, so let's slow it down. Click on the tween column, and select Step 2 from the right button menu. This will distribute these frames with the step number selected. As you can see, the tween now takes twice as long. Okay, this will do nicely. It's time to save and export. For this animation I am exporting transparent PNGs, but the choice is yours. Pick your favorite settings and hit render. Next scene, draw an alarm clock. Import it, select the plastic tool, and create a mesh. Choose a margin to cover the whole clock, and start building your skeleton. Choose Animate, add a starting keyframe to the mesh, and get cracking. Remember, press the loopy arrow under your keyframes to loop everything above it in its column. Let's speed it up and tweak some more. Notice how the base of the skeleton acts as a pivot. And because of the large margins, the whole drawing is affected. This will suit our purposes just fine. Now here's a bigger version of the clock, to act as a quick close-up. Here we want small margins, as we only want to affect specific parts of the mesh. Reposition the mesh, and build your skeleton. Place the joints over the meshed parts, or they will have no effect. Back in the timeline, make your animation. Notice that only parts connected to the deforming mesh move. Lovely jubbly. Name things sensibly. Render your frames, and on to the next scene. Here's our friend waking up. Let's go back to our snoring scene, and add this. Import the picture without the pillow, as we will reuse the one we already have. Extending the shadow column without the accompanying mesh frames, and it won't follow the loop. Add the mesh frames and it does. Let's make a mesh. We'll use small margins here, to see how it deforms. Make a skeleton, and add a starting keyframe. Notice that the bones affect all parts of the drawing, that are connected to the mesh. This can produce unwanted results, so it is generally a good idea to split your drawing into bits, and control them accordingly. This will do nicely. Let's quickly make his eye blink. Cover the eye with white in the new layer. Add another new layer, and animate a simple blink. Save your work and render. Let's now move on to the next scene. Here we have his hand reaching for the clock. Open our clock file and import the hand and background separately. Add a mesh to the hand and drag it into position. Add bones and start animating the hand.
I wish I was in the western country, sitting in a big armchair. One arm around my whiskey barrel, the other around my deer.
Now only the hand will move, and not the background. As well as bending his fingers, we also want our hand to reach out towards the clock. To release bones from their constraints, toggle the Keep Distance checkbox off. You can now grab a bone and move it anywhere. Now we want to place our clock. We can grab our clock from column 1 and move it, or simply import the rendered sequence that we made earlier. Let's do that. Position the clock and this mini scene is done. Save and render. Next we'll draw a quick and dirty hand to hit the clock with. Import this as well as the alarm clock sequence. Notice the hand has a white fill, so the mesh covers the entire drawing. Animate our slappy hand, so it whacks the clock. After the clock is hit, it should stop wobbling. Delete the remaining keyframe pattern, and extend a single frame at this point. Super. Next scene. Time to wake up with a yawn. Separate our yawning friend from the bed, and import each into their own column. Set your margins, and create your meshes. Position the bits. And add some bones. Now let's animate him, yawning. And let him have a little scratch as well. Add bones, and animate the sheets. Because the pillow is also part of the mesh, it may move when we don't want it to. There are a few ways around this. The Paint Rigid option in the mesh menu will help against this, but it's not perfect. For the best results, remove parts of the drawing you want to remain static, and plonk them in their own layer. Or do none of the above. You might just get away with it. Render your scene when you're done. Next scene. Wakey wakey sleepyhead. Let's animate him rubbing his eyes, and making a move to get out of bed. Split and import the drawing in 3 bits, and give the body an armor mesh. Reposition meshed drawings with the Edit tool. Always place your keyframes in the mesh column. Add a skeleton to the body mesh. The base joint will determine how your mesh pivots when animating the bones. To control which bits do or don't move, decide beforehand whether or not they go in the mesh. He is waking up slowly. Remember, press Shift and drag to copy keyframes in the timeline. There, he's rubbed his eyes enough. Now, let's put his arm away. Oops. A sticky out bit. Again, let's move the bone by toggling the keep distance option off. That's better. Now to finish off, we'll have him look down. And a little tug on the sheets. He's making a move for his slippers. That's it. Now for those slippers. Import the leg and slipper as 2 separate drawings. For a bit of a toe wiggle, we require a mesh on the leg layer. Try not to overcomplicate the skeleton. Keep it simple. Add frames, and position your scene elements. Make the foot and toes move. We also want the leg to move down towards the slipper. Grab the edit tool and move the leg up in frame 1. Move to the end of the animation and move it down. Set start and stop markers to test your scene. Before you render, always remember to name and save your scene. And press Save All to ensure all level info is saved as well. Next, a quick stretch. OpenToonz currently adds an edge to white fills, which we don't want. As you can see here, once the mesh is deformed, the white fill acquires a faint outline. This is not really a problem for colored backgrounds, but not good if it's white. So we will import the picture with no fill, and build the skeleton along the lines of the drawing. Animating stretching. Notice that the mesh deforms differently when it's not a filled shape. Tweak your animation, and save and render the result. It's time for our next scene. A quick close-up of his hand, for some finger cracking. Again no fill, but now with large margins it deforms the same way. Animate the hand and fingers so they yawn, in as far as fingers can do this. Save and render. For our next scene we will have him walk towards the bathroom. Here's a dodgy drawing of him walking. Split this into 3 bits, background, shadow, and our walking hero. We're going to make him do a mini walk, and then demonstrate a simple camera pan and zoom, as he approaches the bathroom. Just a simple walk, shifting weight from one foot to the other. Super. Now position the bits. He's walking away from us, so let's have him scale down slightly. Add starting keyframes for the mesh scale by pressing Enter in the property windows. Go to the last frame and drag to scale the level down. This will do. Now to flip to the first person view and show him approaching the bathroom. First, draw a bathroom with a door and a wall in the foreground. Import these as 3 individual layers. How a door and wall are filled to cover the background. Scale and position things to make our scene. Starting keyframes are automatically set when properties are changed. Set a starting keyframe for the horizontal scale of the door column. Move down some frames, reduce its horizontal scale. Also alter its position. It now looks like it's opening. Choose your camera from the drop menu. Add keyframes to the camera position by pressing Enter in the property windows. You can't see these keyframes in the timeline. For full control you can view them in the X sheet. Move down and Control drag to do a small zoom. A few zoom and position tweaks, and we have our scene. We're clearly headed towards the bathroom. Time to enter. To illustrate this, we will continue the zoom with a brief view from above. Place and position the scene bits. Choose the camera and add a starting keyframe. Then move down some frames and make a small zoom. Select the head column and add a positional keyframe at the start. A few frames later, make his head tween up a bit. Do the same for the scale of the head. Keep it subtle. There, he's stepping into the room. We're in. In this scene, we'll walk across from right to left and have a pee. On the way we'll see our reflection in the mirror. Once the pieces are in place and the character meshed up, it's time to add a skeleton. Place the joints to provide the deformation you need. We're going to make a little walking loop. Animate the mesh so he rocks back and forth. Make his arm sway a bit. Press the arrow under the last keyframe to loop the sequence. Once looped, we want our animation to move across the screen. Tweening the position of the mesh column will conflict with our loop. To do this, name the mesh column and select the animation tab. Add a peg. Connect the blue dot on the mesh to the red dot on the peg. Back in the main window, select the peg in Edit Tool mode and add a keyframe in the East-West window. Move down some frames and drag our character to the left to create the tween. Now select the camera, and likewise add a starting keyframe. Move down and create a little camera pan. To tweak this, we'll tween the background layer as well. This will do nicely. Now to make his reflection. Copy the drawing layer containing our character and paste in a new column. Now we will draw a mask. Select the background layer and insert a new column. Using the geometric tool, draw a series of rectangles to cover the regions outside the mirror. There are various ways of doing this, but this will demonstrate a few handy skills. Make the fill color white and the outlines transparent. Rearrange the layer order, so the mask and reflection are at the back. Add a motion tween to the reflection, so it follows the walk. We now need to make our mask follow the moving mirror. We can do this with motion tweens, but let's try shape tweening. Select our mask, and make the fill color visible. In the level window, add a load of keyframes. Then copy and paste the mask shape from the first frame into the last frame. With the selection tool, alter the mask shapes, so they fit the mirror again. Now select all the mask levels, and create a shape tween, by clicking the in-between text. Oops, let's fix that. Enter the number sequence in the mask column, so the tween can be seen. As you can see, the mirror and the mask move differently. This is because the tweens don't use the same interpolation method. This can be seen in the X sheet. Find the peg tween here, and click in it. Change the interpolation to linear and press apply. Do the same for the background tween. The mask and mirror should now line up. Change the mask fill to white again, and tweak the position of the reflection. Now change the tween of our reflection column to linear as well, so it matches the peg tween. This works okay, but it would be nicer if the reflection also bobbed up and down. So let's delete the tween on the reflection layer, and add it to a new peg instead. In the Animation tab, add a new peg and parent the reflection layer to it. Now with the new peg selected, create a motion tween in the main window. Remember, the default interpolation is speed in, speed out, so change it to linear in the X sheet. Since his movement from right to left is now provided by the peg, we can now add keyframes to the reflection layer to create a bobbing up and down loop. Match the movement of our mesh, and press the loopy arrow. We now have him walking past the mirror to the toilet. Now for business. I think he really needs a pee right now. Import a new drawing after his walk. This time he's smiling. Add a mesh and some bones to our friend. Drag him into position. Add some frames, and extend the background layer as well. And And now animate him having a pee. More often than not, it looks a bit like this. Don't forget a little shake at the end. That feels much better. And that's it for part 1 of this tutorial. Check out part 2, where we will make a load more scenes, show you more tricks and tips, and put together the final composition. Please subscribe to our channel, and become our patron, by clicking the lovely buttons. Until the next time, keep on making that funky stuff.